Welcome to the Regen Room. Today we're speaking with Eve White. Eve is a proud Wurundjeri woman. Eve's a yogi, a dancer, and a mermaid. How you going, Eve?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, Josh?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Eve. Hey, before we get going today, I just wanted to acknowledge that I'm here on the Sunshine Coast on Gubbi Gubbi country. And I just want to pay my respects to the land and the people and the animals and the waters on this land.
Thank you. I am in Bondi, Sound of the Sea, in Bidjigal Gadigal country of Eora Nation, and I too would like to pay my respects to the elders that are from here, but also to my elders from Wurundjeri Nation in country New South Wales, and just to acknowledge the land, the sky, the earth that I play on every day, and the deep connection and respect that First Nations people have to this land.
Thanks, Eve. And you do a bit of playing as well, don't you? With it's quite the arsenal of fun that you have with being a yoga, a dancer, and a mermaid. Can you tell us a little bit about how you use movement as a form of medicine?
Well, for me, the medicine that it brings, I guess, it's all connected, right? So, as a mom of three, it's been my medicine more on a mental side of things, that I've really carved out that time to do a practice before anyone wakes up in the house, so that I kind of can get my body, mind, and my spirit in a good place, so then I can go and help juggle all of the making of breakfast and lunches and bustling the kids off to school. So for me, it's just medicine on so many aspects. But I guess, for those of us that do like to move our body, it's about the time that it takes. Even if you just look at a yoga practice, I often teach an hour class, and it's just not enough time to sort of do all the things that you need to do. One pose leads into another pose, and there's a counter pose for that pose, and you could just kind of keep going. And then it's kind of all geared up so that you can meditate, which is impossible to do in an hour yoga class. So the more you do, the more you want to do. And so for me, it's a real time factor.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. Sometimes it's like, where do you squeeze that time in? But when you do make the time to have a physical practice where there's exercise or maybe more mindful movement, I find personally that it really regenerates me and my mind, my body, my spirit through that practice. And when I'm coming from a more generated place after doing some exercises, I got my natural endorphins flowing. Then you're just delivering the best version of yourself to the other people in your life. So it's a really powerful tool, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And with that medicine, so part of my training in yoga was Qigong. So it was sort of 20% Qigong and 80% Hatha yoga. And Qigong literally translates to energy cultivation. I spell it Chigong, but it can be spelled Qi. It's where most martial arts is stemmed from. It's like Tai Chi, and you're literally like using the universe's energy to like cultivate that so that you can energize yourself or focus on certain organs to heal them. And it's that real using your outward, the energy around you to bring it inside of you, and using your own sort of healing hands to do that. So for me, that's a really potent medicine to use in movement. And then it's a really good prep for yoga. I like to do it before I take my yoga practice into the body. And then I often the Qigong and the yoga, and then hopefully I'm beside the ocean, so that then I've sort of cleaned and cleared all of my energy fields so that I don't take anything in the ocean with me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because chi literally is like life force, right? Yeah, it's really
Yeah,
cool.
it can be translated as energy or breath work, or energy cultivation.
Mm.
Yeah, many names. Prana in yoga in Sanskrit, prana,
Yeah.
chi, energy. It's what we're made of.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a beautiful concept to kind of consider, you know, uh, moving into that different way of thinking of what actually gives us life. But is there anything else in particular that physical practice has taught you over the years that you might like to share with us?
Yeah, so I guess as a dancer, having danced most of my adult life, I've always sort of danced. Now I've added different elements onto that. But being able to dance through different cultures and embody different cultures I would call myself more as a cultural dancer. And that's not to say that I just dance Aboriginal culture, Aboriginal dance, indigenous dance. That's something that I'm only really starting to tap into in the last few years. But I think it's such a powerful way for us to embrace different cultures when we embody it through our movement. And with that, it helps to sort of unify us with other cultures and concepts that come with that. And so yeah, I think dance is that really beautiful creative expression where you can, like I've done tango before, and when you do tango, it's like this real kind of powerful. You're not smiling in it. You really get to use your strength, and you're almost like fighting in that dance. And then if you do something like capoeira, where you are literally, mimicking slaves and how they moved when they had chains on their wrists, and just watching, what was it called? Pali, I think it was called, the movie on the Brazilian. Use capoeira in soccer, and that's where they do all the fast movements. And so there was a huge thing on racism with that, where the Brazilian team came out and they were winning, but they copped so much harassment from the other team. So I think it's just a really beautiful way to bring into everything that you do, to dance into aspects of your life, to sort of free up. And in yoga, I find that you're on the mat and you're in the mat, and it's very structured, and it's very balanced. Each side is balanced. But whereas with dance, it's a story, it's expressive. You're passing on culture and tradition through your story.
Yeah, no, that's great. Awesome. I know you mentioned cultural dance, and I know you're running some cultural awareness workshops as well at the moment. There's a big want for that, which is amazing. I was wondering if you could touch on something maybe that you might have learned over the years diving into your own story and becoming more culturally aware of your own history, and some lessons you may have learned during that process.
Yeah, so I was always quite curious as a child, because we didn't really grow up, going to corroborees and really embracing the Aboriginality in my family. And so it wasn't till I left home when I was quite young, I was 15, when I moved to Bondi, and I lived with hippies, actually, who played djembes and didgeridoos. And I remember getting a didgeridoo massage by an Aboriginal guy that was staying there at the time, and just sort of learning then that women don't play, and just learning a little bit from him, and then having then done Vipassana meditation course at the age of 17. And that kind of really strips away all of the programming that you have, been exposed to during your life, and you really come back to that blank canvas. Perhaps you might get there. So I did that for my HSC and culture. I did my personal interest program. I think it was called On on Vipassana meditation course. And for me, that really, really allowed me to strip back a lot of layers. And then from there, I studied yoga after I'd sort of danced my way around the world in different cultural shows. And then I sort of got a lot more connected with spirituality and what that is and what that means, and that question of who am I, where am I from? And I would always ask my grandmother, who called me child of the universe, and I would call her grandmother of the universe. We'd sit and I'd be like, so where am I from? And she'd go through, and she really thought that her husband was Maori, because he told everyone that he was Maori. And then she was like, okay, and you've got Mexican, there's some Spanish, but there's Aboriginal on your mum's side, and Irish and Scottish. And so I'd sit with her and we'd yarn about that. And it wasn't until, bless her, that she passed away when she was 99. And an auntie came up to me and she was like, knowing that I was interested in my culture, she was like, your grandfather, he wasn't Maori, he was Aboriginal. And so that really sparked a lot of curiosity within me. And just naturally, through the retreats that I went on, through the people that I met, through the conscious way of my connections with people, I came across more. I got connected with more aunties and uncles, and I haven't really stopped since.
Yeah, you can just keep learning. Hey, just keep digging deeper and deeper into the learnings.
There's so many layers. And there's so much history that we haven't really really sat down and properly spoke about. Like when we went to school, we didn't really get taught a lot. Some schools they do, and depending on where you go, because I've sort of travelled around wider part of New South Wales with Wundana education and events, and so I went to a lot of schools, and there's a lot in some schools and nothing in others. There's not really, it's not mandatory in the curriculum. It hasn't been. It's only just starting to become that way now. And I think it's, even if it doesn't feel good, like it's not going to feel good. Like we have a really dark history here, but it's something that we really need to bring to the surface and really look at and talk about. And as I look like a privileged white woman, so I've had, my experience has been very privileged, and I feel like I only really experienced racism myself when I was in Egypt with a Caribbean band, so everyone was black and I was white. And then I've since married a black man and experienced some things, what he experiences, from real estate agents not shaking his hand, even distant sort of family members of mine not engaging in him. And there's daily occurrences that happen being a black person, and living in Bondi, where it's like such a bubble, and having a rainbow colored family, we do definitely get attention when we walk out on the street. And I'm quite oblivious to certain things. It's Steve, my husband, often is like, oh no, that happened because of this. And I'm like, wow, okay.
I think that if we did start to learn in schools from a younger age, maybe we'd be more comfortable with different cultures. But you're right, just because we just for the most part have covered up our history, or the true history, then that just you're just raised in this society where you just don't really acknowledge the truth and in the truth about other people and their histories, or even your own history. And what I've learned recently is that when you do acknowledge your own history, even if it is confusing, like you said, you've got quite an array of different cultures in your history, and I do as well. When you start to explore those things, you start to gain understanding, and when you understand yourself, that you'll be able to understand others better, and it's just a beautiful process to go through. So hopefully they do bring that into the schools. Hey,
Yeah, well, I think the first, yeah, go on.
you're right. No, I was just gonna ask the next question, if that's okay. I was just gonna ask. This year has been a big year for change for a lot of people, and we are starting to ask more of these questions. So we are starting to learn a lot of different things. I was wondering if there's anything in particular that you've learned this year that you might like to share with us.
It has been a massive education for us all. I feel like, especially like here in Australia, we've had drought, we've had fire, we've had health, we've had, dealing with different shades of skin color. And so it's been a massive year. And so for me, what I feel like I have learned is to keep on looking at the world from all of the angles, from all these different perspectives and lenses, and looking at everything with an open mind. And also I've learned a lot myself that we're quite heavily programmed. The sky is blue, the grass is green. Just even that in itself is some sort of programming. So to be able to not just look with your eyes, but to be able to really look with your third eye or first eye or Ajna chakra, or with your intuition, so that you can, see things from all angles.
For sure, I can totally resonate with that. When you look at the sky and and when you know that the sky is blue, you're missing so much more of the sky, because like you just say, oh, that's the sky, it's blue, and that's it. But those words are just what the language that we use to try to understand what the sky is. But really the sky is so much more than just blue. You know what I mean? And the grass is so much more than just green. So yeah, you're right. Open up the mind and maybe try and drop the language barriers. That would be a good place to start, eh? Might help with the cultural side of things as well, I guess. If we just, started looking from that perspective of like looking at everything with fresh eyes, like a kid, I guess. That'd be pretty cool. And also I had another question. Is there, with everything that's going on, is there anything that you might like a piece of advice that you would like to give to Australians, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, or from wherever at the moment?
Well, I guess to know that we are all, I guess, in this together. And so we're all obviously needing to heal past traumas, whether you're Indigenous, whether you're, black or white. I feel like we all need to forgive, and then we all need to sort of just look at the shadow aspects of where we're at. So whether that's, how can we do things better when it gets really hot and the earth is really dry? How can we then go and look to those that do really know fire and know circle, burning, and look at our First Nations people for guidance. And, when it comes to health, like when we see that a lot of people have been affected by this because they already have a lower immune system, let's talk about the immune system. Let's talk about how we can get ourselves back to an optimum health, because we all should be waking up with a lot of energy, and it's not, as hard as we think. So, what we want our children to learn, what do we want our children to learn? And if they're not learning that, what can we do to help change that? Whether it's Indigenous culture, whether it's like, I think health is like something that's really key that perhaps our children are missing out on. And then, to all just recognize that we all have a heart that beats, and the different beautiful colors of skin that we all have, whether they're freckled or, you know, like just to embrace our uniqueness because we're all so different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Eve. That's beautiful. Beautiful way to end the conversation. I just wanted to also just really say thank you so much for all of your support over the last year, from the seaside scavenge events we were doing together to the big bike ride that I had planned, and now to this regen room. You've been a real grounding rock for me, and I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Pleasure. You inspire me, Josh. So keep on doing what you're doing. You are amazing.
Thank you. Cheers, Eve.